Hi, good evening. I'm Shane Jones. Making headlines. A national disaster exercise underway as Barbados prepares to weather the hurricane season. The NCF answers the call for Grand Kadooment festivities to be extended. CXC workers take industrial action and their dispute with management seems headed for the Labour Department. And coming up in sport, the Windies lose to defending champions Australia at the World Cup.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC Newsnight, starting now.
Leading the news at 7. Exercise Complex Trident is underway. Phase 1 of the Barbados National Disaster Exercise was launched yesterday morning at the Accra Beach Hotel and Spa. The Department of Emergency Management, in collaboration with the Barbados Defence Force, is executing the exercise, which is designed to detect and address deficiencies in the National Emergency Management System's emergency plans, protocols and procedures. It will test and evaluate Barbados' ability to respond to a multi-hazard impact like a hurricane. DEM Director Kerry Hines says the exercise will put months of planning to work.
You have been the recipients of awareness building workshops, plan refinement and synchronization sessions, all in an effort to encourage you to focus on the review and refinement, and in some cases, the development of the standard operating procedures and plans.
Home Affairs Minister Edmund Hinkson says since Barbados is located in the second most vulnerable region in terms of natural disasters, the country must be ready for any eventuality.
Exercises, whether tabletop, functional or full scale, provide an opportunity for us to test our plans and practice procedures in order to improve our ability to function if and when we are impacted by a severe hazard event. For this reason, we have sought to involve all elements of the NENS, including agencies from the public and private sector, civil society and the community level.
BDF Chief of Staff Colonel Glyne Granham says the environment can sometimes become a hostile power.
It will be the contemporary national security challenge of our time. It will increasingly demand comprehensive, joint interagency and even multinational responses.
Exercise Complex Trident is the first phase of the 2019 to 2020 National Disaster Exercise. Calls for an extension to Grand Kadooment festivities have been answered. The National Cultural Foundation has announced that it will be partnering with Twisted Entertainment to host their Kadooment Day after party rewind. CEO of the NCF, Carol Roberts-Reefer, says the move is in response to concerns from band leaders that there was no assembly point for revelers once they reached Spring Garden.
We have offered to the band leaders the option of coming down Spring Garden, but when they get to the bottom of Spring Garden, the music trucks diverting and the revelers going into Kensington Oval where they can be comfortably fed and watered. And what the NCF would do is then put on another layer of entertainment, DJ entertainment, that allows us to allow them to party for a bit longer. And then at the climax of everything, we're considering a fireworks display, and critical for us, the announcement of the dates for Crop Over 2020.
Yesterday, the two entities signed an MOU during a media conference at the NCF's headquarters. The event will be open not just to revelers, but patrons who purchase tickets ahead of the event. Ms. Roberts-Reefer also revealed that band leaders and tent managers should begin receiving subventions from this weekend.
The tent managers share, the qualifying tent managers share equally a pool of $75,000. Of tiers, so small bands that qualify get a subvention of $7,500 paid in 2 tranches, and large bands that qualify get an annual subvention of $10,000 also paid in 2 tranches. And that's what we're going to start this week.
Unionized staff at the Caribbean Examinations Council are on strike. After a 2-day sick-out, they assembled outside the CXC's Prince Road Pine Plantation headquarters this morning. Staff members are protesting a slew of changes by management. According to General Secretary of the Barbados Workers Union, Senator Tony Moore, the CXC started a restructuring process without concluding discussions with the union.
They started advertising vacancies for jobs that were being discussed during the restructuring talks. So I think what we are observing here today is the workers being at the final stage, experiencing the final straw, and this is the action that we are seeing here today.
Now, in a release, the Caribbean Examinations Council says throughout discussions, good industrial relations as rules that govern the organization were followed. The CXC but insists certain conditions must be met first.
They've called for a meeting at 11 o'clock tomorrow, but our position is still clear until the ads are pulled. We cannot commit that the workers will be returning to work. That objective or that indication from us must be met for resolution to take place in this issue, because it should not have been put out in the first place.
This special report on the 49th annual meeting of the Caribbean Development Bank's Board of Governors is brought to you by LIAT and the BIDC.
President of the Caribbean Development Bank, Dr. Warren Smith, says it's just a matter of time before marijuana laws change throughout the region. That was one of the major points coming out of the Caribbean Development Bank's 49th annual Board of Governors meeting in Trinidad and Tobago. Well, our Ryan Broom is there and joins us live now with the latest. Hi, good evening, Ryan.
Hi, good evening, Shane. Good evening, viewers. Well, that is right. Dr. Smith made the comment in the final press conference as the CDB wrapped up its meeting here at the Hyatt Hotel in Port of Spain, Trinidad. He says the medicinal benefits of marijuana have been noted in the region, the United States, Canada, and beyond, and laws have been changing accordingly. He says as a result, he sees no reason why the bank cannot be involved in marijuana-related projects like important research through universities in the region.
It is another opportunity for us to diversify our economies. It's another way for us to diversify our agricultural sector and also our agro-processing sector and our medical industries. So I think it would be foolhardy not to do so. A country like Israel is very, very well advanced in taking advantage of the many benefits of marijuana. There's a lot we can learn from Israel and other countries like Canada as to what can be done with that product. If we don't do it, believe me, other countries are going to do it, and we'll be left behind.
Now, meanwhile, the CDB president also weighed in on the recent confirmation by Prime Minister Mia Motley that the island will be selling part of its majority shareholding in regional air carrier LIAT to neighboring Antigua. While opting not to get into the details regarding the negotiations, he acknowledged the rights of shareholding governments to make certain strategic decisions going forward.
Frankly, we don't have a difficulty if existing shareholders and new shareholders have different arrangements for financing the airline. What we would like is for a much greater burden sharing to take place, broadly speaking. In other words, if we had more countries that are beneficiaries of air travel through LIAT, that they would come on board and provide financing so that the burden, so much of the burden would not rest on one or a few shareholding countries. That would be the preferred solution as far as I'm concerned.
Meanwhile, Shane, the theme of transformation has been maintained throughout this meeting. And yesterday's seminar on resilience building dealt with important issues related to how climate change affects small island states like Barbados, which make the least contribution to negative impacts on the environment. Minister in the Ministry of Economic Affairs, Marsha Cattle, put the issue in perspective as part of her presentation on the topic, From Vulnerability to Resilience, You Choose.
We are not the ones who are creating the problem from which we're suffering. And so more and more, we have to have the courage, I think, to look at models that go beyond, for example, the CRIF, where we are purchasing our own insurance, and to look at how do we go back to the polluter pays model. How do we get the countries that are contributing to invest in instruments like CRIF so that when we suffer or when we experience a disaster, that there's a global understanding and a global recognition that this comes from those countries that contribute to global warming and that are having the greatest impact on climate change.
So there you have it, Shane. Just a snippet of what was happening here at this meeting. I wasn't able to get to things like digital technology and agriculture in a broader way, which I will do when I get back to Barbados. So many more stories to be told from this conference. But for now, on behalf of myself and cameraman, the videographer Patrick Murray, I'm signing off from Port of Spain. It's back to you, Shane.
Okay, good work, guys. Continue to keep us updated. As efforts continue to reduce the level of violence in Barbados, a major peace conference has been planned. The Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs has partnered with Codrington College to host the Abrahamic Conference on June 17th. Minister Cynthia Ford says while Barbadians may worship in different ways, there are many similarities among the varying faiths. She says the conference is an initiative of peace and acceptance.
We are living now in a world everywhere filled with so much violence and strife. We have to explore every avenue to preserve peace and goodwill in our homes, in our communities, and in our society as a whole. We owe it to each other to be peaceful, to be loving, and to care for one another, particularly respecting human life.
Minister Ford says she's excited about the faith rally which takes place on the opening day of the two-day conference. There will also be a public panel discussion on the commonalities of different faiths and the dignity of respect for difference. 32 former Transport Board drivers will soon be helping their former employer provide services to the public as private operators. They officially signed on to the Transport Augmentation Program yesterday afternoon at the Ministry of Transport Works and Maintenance headquarters in the Pine. Minister Dr. William Duguid, Minister in the Ministry Peter Phillips, and other officials observed the signing. Dr. Duguid noted that the drivers will benefit from duty-free concessions for the purchase of the vehicles.
I am very happy and very pleased because this is an opportunity to empower and enfranchise former drivers who are now becoming entrepreneurs, and also by extension they have an opportunity to become employers in this country. And I want to commit to them that we will work to make sure that this is a win-win situation, both for them, for the commuters of Barbados, and for the Transport Board.
The University of the West Indies at Cave Hill has been granted institutional accreditation from the Barbados Accreditation Council. The certificate was presented during a ceremony at the campus. Executive Director at the Barbados Accreditation Council, Valda Aline, says there was a high level of commitment from the management and staff at UWI during the accreditation process.
A major requirement of the accreditation process is that the tertiary educational provider must submit a self-evaluated report, which is essentially a critical analysis of the provider using the Council's institutional accreditation standards. Not daunted by this requirement, the Cave Hill campus approached this exercise with much enthusiasm and expectation that it will allow that institution to quickly explore what it is that we do. How well are we doing it? What do we have? How well does it work? What can we do to improve it? The Council is confident that the Cave Hill campus came out of this intensive self-evaluation exercise as a renewed and re-energized institution.
Checking with our regional neighbors now, Guyanese are being warned to brace for more blackouts in the upcoming weeks. The Guyana Power and Light has announced that a damaged transmission cable will take weeks to repair. HGP TV's Javon Vickery explains.
The company in a statement explained that the break in transmission was due to damages done on a submarine cable. GPL stated that while the company worked expeditiously to fix the problem, which could take close to a month to fix, it will conduct a number of load shedding exercises aimed at easing the pressure on the current transmission system. Divisional Director of Projects Ryan Ross explained that this is not the first time that the submarine cable was damaged. He noted that the cable is constantly damaged by a number of elements since it was laid in a commercial shipping zone.
GPL's short to medium term plan is to have redundancy built in.
GPL, through the Inter-American Development Bank, was provided with a significant sum of funds to improve its system. The loan also outlined a $40 million fund to create additional substations at specific locations. The Director of Projects explained that the funding was insufficient to conduct all that was planned to improve GPL's system.
While the Dominica Labour Party and the main opposition United Workers' Party have been announcing their candidates to the public, the Dominica Freedom Party is playing its cards close to its chest. More in this report.
Just on Sunday, the Dominica Labour Party launched its candidate for the Rosa South constituency, Shakira Lockhart Hippolyte. 2 weeks before that, the United Workers' Party introduced its slate of 21 candidates to the public, but has since cut back on public functions as a mark of respect to Noreen John, the candidate for the Grand Bay constituency who passed away on the 20th of May. Political leader of the Dominica Freedom Party, Kent Vital, says in due time the DFP will reveal its slate of candidates to the public.
Every party have its own timeline. We don't want to be thrown off by the strategies of the Labour Party, but there are realities in our country that the Freedom Party have had to deal with. So although we have had many discussions with persons who want to represent us, there are certain realities that we have to deal with. And we are dealing with those realities. We are addressing them. It's true that the Labour Party may be ahead in terms of the announcements, the Labour Party ahead in terms of the announcement, but we have some realities that we are dealing with. And very soon we will come to the public and make announcements which will cover those realities, which will indicate the persons that we are working with. But I could tell you, for instance, there are at least 11 solid discussions that are ongoing. Some of them we would have already announced before, that we continue to have. There are other engagements and discussions that we're having.
Vital says, unfortunately, the party won't be able to fill 21 candidates, though that was the original plan.
The St. Lucian Nurses Association has secured a deal with a government negotiation team, whose chairman, Vern Gill, revealed the terms of the agreement.
I would like to take the opportunity, if I am allowed to just state that the aspect of the salaries that we have agreed upon reflect the following: a lump sum payment of $1,500, which is aimed at addressing the period 16 to 19, 1% for the period 2019 to 2020, 1% for the period 2020 to 2021, and 2% for the period 2021 to 2022. So it encompasses the whole 6-year period, and it means then that we don't have to be under pressure in terms of negotiations for the next few years.